Good afternoon, everyone. I think it's 11:02 Mountain Time, so we will get started. Today's talk is about UX, and it's part of our four-part UI UX series. And it's about how UX design is for everyone and how it should be matured through organizations. And our host today is David Belcher. David is a UX professional and has been with Improving since 2010. He brings over 20 years of UX experience and has about 13 years of versatile US consulting experience across diverse industries such as travel, fintech, logistics, law enforcement, and others. He was promoted to VP of Consulting in 2015 and heads the Dallas UX practice, occasionally speaking on topics such as front-end development and UX integration with agile, design importance, and UX maturity. Other than work, David loves to travel, cook, collect whiskey, and motorsports, particularly IndyCar and F1. He's always exploring DIY projects and is a continuous learner and likes to master the art of making pizza from scratch. His latest is perfecting Detroit-style pan pizza at home. And without further ado, David, please take it away.
Thank you for the introduction and welcome to everyone. Welcome everyone today. So as mentioned, we are talking about design maturity, and this is the next talk that we're doing in a four-part series around UX by everyone. And so last week we visited UX mindset, and we've climbed a little bit further up into this journey into Basecamp 2 UX maturity. And that's where I'm going to talk about today. So effective design plays a crucial role in the success of organizations. Its level of integration and adoption within an organization can be viewed as UX maturity model. In today's discussion, I'll explore the importance of design, the characteristics of UX mindset, in summary, to kind of bring us back up to speed from last week, and explore the concept of the UX maturity model. I will highlight the reasons why organizational leaders should prioritize UX maturity based on the current landscape of companies and their current maturity. And I also hope to provide some insight into the steps that might help foster growth in maturity for organizations as they start to learn where their current maturity is. And so by the end of today, we are going to be looking to hand off to looking into two more scheduled talks. One would be working with UX teams and methods to effectively apply design across the teams. And then additionally, working with leadership and the outcomes of what design can help with business success and creating products that are great for their users and great for business. So just in summary, let's think about effective design. Why is it important to an organization? So if we think about design, we also want to think about the biggest risk to a product is to build the wrong thing. So when you use design to build products, you can maybe create superior products that make sense to your users and customers, and then get you on the right path of building the right product. And success lies in the ability to provide solutions to your customers or users and what they want. Adopting a design-led and user-centered approach is key here. Good design is important for successful products and enables them to make favorable first impression, stand out in a competitive market, and enhance brand awareness to an organization. Quickly, good design yields numerous benefits and ultimately contributing to overall business success, such as user satisfaction, competitive advantage, and sometimes most importantly, innovation in your product space. The cost of bad or no design can result in things such as experience issues that can create negative brand perception and could result in increased support and maintenance costs. And from an internal perspective, could result in lots of expensive rework and time needed to do rework if the product is not correct or is not meeting business goals or organizational success criteria, and could also lead to employee frustration. That's why it's important to have effective design. And a lot of times design is considered as something that makes products look pretty. And I want to just make sure that this is that I can communicate this today, that effective design is not just about aesthetics, it is strategic. It's design influences user satisfaction, brand perception. It helps achieve overall product success. And investing in design can pay off by creating products that meet user needs, stand out in the market, contribute to long-term business success. This is going to be some things that you're going to hear reoccurring over and over again, but I think by the end of today, there's going to be a lot of awareness about where design can be helpful in creating organizational success when building products. So let's look at the UX mindset for success. We talked about design is not just what it looks like from an aesthetic standpoint. Make things look pretty is sometimes what we hear designers, what we do as designers. But really, to go back to what Steve Jobs has said, and I've used this quote a lot throughout my career, but design is not just what it looks like and feels like. Design is how it works. And the way that I think about it is design equals solving a problem that a user or a customer may have. If they are challenged with the current process, then I want to learn how can I help fix it. And so some of the ways that I think about solving a problem in the UX mindset include some of these things. It includes so much more, but really it's about having a user-centric focus, understanding the users, talking with the users, finding out in the feedback culture, if you have an existing product, why things work in a certain way that maybe helps to solve a problem for them, or maybe why something may not exactly solve their problem, but did you know that getting some insight may do a quick fix? And so it's continuous learning and adaptation. It's collaboration with cross-functional teams. It's so important to make sure that teams that build products understand that user-centric focus, that feedback culture, and it really does help provide some strategic alignment. If we look at effective design activities, if you look in the center column, information architecture, prototyping, usability testing, and visual design, interaction design, accessibility is starting to become pretty aware out there, but maybe not get as much attention as the previous items that we've talked about from design activities. These are some of the crucial parts of effective design, but some of the things that are going to be listed on the left and right is what allows the UX mindset to not only be effective to create that user-centric centered focus, but then additionally making sure that it is shared across teams in a way that teams understand design. And so doing things like collaborative workshops that are design related, that help provide user insights and things like that. And so ultimately, effective design can really help, not just, make satisfied users and customers, but really have a chance to help make your organization be competitive in an industry, in a vertical, help with brand recognition, and ultimately, if it's being done correctly, you can do some efficiency within an organization where you're building the right product, you're not having to redo product based off of user surveys and things like that. And so it really kind of moves down into a situation where you are building innovative solutions. And ultimately, I think when you're innovating in the space, your organization will find business success and achieve their goals. So good thing you have designers, right? Well, this does not solve the UX mindset itself. Really, the way that I feel about it, and that's why collaboration is important, is design is everyone's responsibility. So yes, everyone should have more design capabilities in context of how it helps their role. UX designers are important here to help, but design is everyone's responsibility. And that's why we have something called a UX maturity model. It's not just how well equipped and capable your designers of your organization are, but really an organizational design ability is UX maturity, and that's the way that we can assess the whole organization's UX capabilities. So UX maturity assessment involves evaluating an organization's UX capabilities and examining consistency across different areas. It necessitates a deliberate and occasional embrace as a practice to enhance overall user experience effectiveness. This notion of UX maturity was started by the Nielsen Norman Group, and they have broken down the stages of UX maturity in 6 different areas. And each stage of how companies engage in different design activities. So this would range from the sporadic events in the early stages to a fully integrated and optimized UX design process in the later stages. The evolution involves increasing awareness, systemizing UX activities, and embedding user-centered design principles into the organizational DNA. And so as you move closer to the stages of 5 and 6, you're going to start to see that design is universal and it's beloved and habitual in an organization that really finds themselves user-driven itself. So this is the Nielsen Norman Group. There are several examples out there, but I want to dive a little bit deeper, and we're going to use an example that's off of the Nielsen Norman Group. But we're going to look at the potential stage of the UX maturity a bit deeper, and we will start at ad hoc. In the ad hoc stage, UX design receives limited attention, and design decisions are frequently made spontaneously. It really lacks substantial user research, and there's minimal regard for understanding the user needs because there's limited things like usability testing. UX activities are not systematically integrated into the development process, and so that often could mean that any design that is part of an organization at this level may be doing a lot of design in a silo, handing off deliverables to a development team, and then they will do work from there. Moving up in the maturity stages, we can look at the awareness stage. And so there's more UX awareness and growing acknowledgements of how significant UX can be when building products. It integrates UX principles into projects, and it initiatives include the initiation of some user research and usability testing. So talking to users and understanding if solutions are going to make sense. And then there could be some introduction of basic UX training for other team members. So bringing other team members, such as development teams, along in the UX process and starting to get them aware of what design does and how it can be applied to building products. Moving from there, it's reactive. So UX is acknowledged as a valuable process, and it actually is taken into account in the projects. There is some approach to user research and usability testing, but often design decisions are guided by user feedback, but teams tend to react to issues rather than anticipating them. And that's the difference between a reactive stage in the maturity and a proactive, where the proactive does a lot of similar to what reactive is, but decisions are grounded in thorough understanding of user needs up front, and there is potential establishment of design systems and guidelines to ensure consistency. And so it's a matter of doing a lot more user testing and understanding before design solutions are made, and being able to be proactive on understanding what is needed at the time. Climbing higher into the maturity stages, they are integrated. In the integrated stage, UX is seamlessly woven into the organizational culture. There is robust focus on user-centered design principles, and design is iterative, and it benefits from the continuous user feedback and cross-functional collaboration across the team. Design decisions are both data-driven and aligned with business goals. So there's and then additionally, there will be well-established design systems and comprehensive guidelines in place. And so documentation has come to a part where consistency can be built, and it's less driven from more of a reactive situation. But another kind of key piece here is it's integrated, that it is moving along the lines with product goals, but also looking for aligns with business goals. And so it may benefit other products within an organization and not just their own. And then at the top, you can look at the optimizing stage. The primary focus is continuous improvement. It's guided by advanced UX metrics and analytics that inform decision making. Emphasis is placed on encouraging innovation and experimentation. UX practices are fine-tuned for maximum efficiency and effectiveness, and positioning UX design as a strategic driver for business success. And so this is the ultimate place that maturity can get to, and it's the idea of being able to work and build the right products, but it also means from a business success standpoint, it can help identify other areas where products could be built based off of the organization's capabilities. So we have a maturity model, and it makes a lot of sense to kind of understand that there's design activities going on, but as we kind of talk about it, that design is not just for designers only. UX maturity is not about how many designers or UX leaders an organization has, but it also means that UX design, it required a company-wide shift in culture and mindset and processes, and the whole organization must be considered. And so the way to kind of look at this is on a plot. So if we have UX capabilities, and starting with designers, we're going to think that their UX capabilities as designers are going to be pretty significant. And so we'll plot them to an area where we feel like there's a lot of understanding of the UX capabilities. There's still growth to be done. You're always learning on your career, of course. But then when we look at the project teams, there may be an awareness of design and what the UX process looks like, and they may even be included. So we can plot the project teams and some other stakeholders in an area where they understand those processes, activities, they collaborate with the design, and they work with the deliverables that UX designers may provide. And then at the other side, we're going to put organizational leaders. They may have minimal exposure to design and may even have limited understanding of its process and purpose. And most crucially, they may even lack insight into how design can be utilized to create effective products and drive business success. And so if we kind of look at the UX capabilities, this is maybe a very typical generic way to look at different abilities by different groups within an organization. But for this purpose, this often is the case. And then additionally, it's worth noting that a lack of awareness of UX and design may also be accompanied by various mindsets that could impede the further adoption of design and hinder the improvement of a UX maturity itself. And so often what we might see when it comes to design is mindsets of either they're completely hostile to it, it's a waste of time, it's a waste of money, it's not something that is going to benefit the product, the organization, and our success, to moving towards an open mind of, maybe something was demonstrated at some point that showed insight to how the process was done. Maybe leaders or project teams were invited to a usability test or a stakeholder interview, and they started to understand, hey, users actually kind of know what the problem with our products are. And so moving away from a hostility towards doing design when it comes to building projects, to becoming more open-minded, accepting, and ideally at some point practicing design along with the UX designers and along with UX, and then getting towards the mastering stage. Now, unfortunately, when assessing the overall UX maturity of an organization, the design capabilities of the whole organization and the various mindsets are considered. So the organization places itself on the maturity model based on the awareness level of the least informed group. And so my talk was, no one can leave no one behind or get left behind. So the idea is, if there are mindsets around UX designers is how we do design, and no one else really practices design, the organizational maturity will be based off of the least informed group within that organization. And so in this case, the organizational maturity should be considered very low, given the fact that there's one big group that does not put value and understands the benefits of design itself. Now, obviously, this is an opportunity for growth and should always be something that in continuous improvement, that the more there's alignment across teams and it's more cross-functional and the more openness for collaboration, there is an opportunity to obviously improve the maturity of an organization and the mindset as they experience new opportunities to bring design into the organization itself. So why is it important? So organizational leaders who prioritize design contribute to creating products that align with user needs, help stand out in the market, and foster a culture of innovation and customer centricity. This in turn leads to enhanced brand perception, competitive advantage, and overall organizational success. And so that's pretty much this slide here. So this might make sense, but there is a reality. I'm kind of maybe speaking in the lab on this one, but the reality is that we can actually take a look at a study that'll help us understand what it looks like out there in the real world. And so we're going to reference an Envision study that was available through the Envision app. That's a prototyping tool that we use as designers, and it's available online to read through it. And so this Envision study, and I put a link to it, they surveyed 2,200 designers from 2,200 different companies in 24 different industries that make up from enterprise to agency, nonprofit, and even government. And then also looked across 77 different countries that include in the continents of North America, Latin America, Europe, Asia, and Australia. One of the big items from this survey that is helpful to understand that how design is being used and applied and understood is that 3/4 of the people surveyed feel that they have improved customer satisfaction and built a usable product. But my challenge there, is that a guarantee for an organization's success alone? The rest of the survey also looked to seek information and insights in other areas of an organization. And so if we look at the fact that majority of users of designers surveyed felt that they had used design to influence product usability and customer satisfaction, that happened the majority of the time. But when we look at other items that help with organizational success, we saw that the results were a lot less than the majority. And that would include the operational efficiency, so crucial time to market on a product, productivity of employees, profitability, including revenue, crucial conversions, and cost savings were all very low. And then market position themselves, areas where companies leapfrog their competition, gain market share and valuation, and including creating new IP, intellectual property, and patents, was very low in the survey, indicating that design was less effective in those 3 areas themselves. So what's going on? This is how, through the survey, it also looked at how it was helping to power products. And so when we look at the way that companies could be successful, it really was design was really staying within features of a product, or maybe got to the complete product or service. But when it came to all of the products of an organization, or even how design helps set the standard in an industry, it was very minimal itself. And so when we kind of look at the design adoption, we see that design is integrated into the product development, and a little bit less design works with product and engineering, so there's collaboration. But when design does joint working sessions with key partners, such as stakeholders, or industry partners, or even their customers, they're doing a little bit less. And they're also involving executives less in the design process, so there's less awareness of the time and effort being used for design itself. And then, of course, how many employees are actually participating in user and customer research was also very low. And it's key to note that usability tests is not just what designers hope to do. They hope to bring whole teams and organizations with them so they can actually witness what users have to say about their product or what their needs are. And so I think that's kind of really important, that last part of how many people, how many employees in an organization are actually involved when it comes to participation in the research to understand users. So Envision breaks the maturity model down similar to like the ones we've looked at in the past, but they've broken it down into a comparable structure. And I've actually become quite acquainted with this breakdown and have actually assisted my clients in understanding their current stage of maturity. And I can actually help provide coaching to foster a new design focus that aids in their growth. And so this is broken down into 5 levels. And I know my image may be overlapping on level 5, but so we have producers, connectors, architects, scientists, and visionaries. And it's very similar to what activities are being done as we walk through, the previous maturity model, but we're going to continue to use this to understand further. So the Envision study does map things out in a way that organizations that can help make things that can help make an organization successful are the higher up you go in maturity, you're going to see more benefits from design. And then from more adoption of design, you're going to see involved people and design processes are being used within an organization. And so based off of the survey, they were able to look at the landscape of the 2,200 different companies and plot them on where they belonged in the maturity itself. And so it's good to be up in level 5, not so much over in level 1 producers. The true scale or reality of this is 41% of companies still have a maturity that's at level 1. And it goes up and gets smaller and smaller as we get closer towards the higher level of design maturity. But we'll find that 21% of companies are connectors, 21% are architects, 12% are scientists, then 5% of the companies are visionaries. And so quickly we can break it down and say 62% of those 2,200 companies had low design maturity, where 38%, if you consider level 3 architects a higher maturity than most, you can talk about the minority start to have higher design maturity at level 3, 4, and 5. Now, if we look real quick, there's a serious gap between level 1 and level 5. And so lowest maturity to highest maturity, the study was able to provide some insights. And so here are 4 key areas to compare the results between companies that have low maturity versus high maturity. You can see that design can have a true ROI when you consider revenue, cost savings, time to market, and valuation. And it's significant. So if we take revenue, you'll notice that a very mature design organization feels that design impacts revenue by 92%, or they've impacted revenue by 92%, where on the lower end, it's only 22%. And you can see if all of these either help make a company valuable, help a company earn money, or help a company be more competitive in their marketplace, these are all very important and a very interesting contrast between the 2 different levels themselves. So we talk about designers and what they can help. The study also noted, based off of this, that the bigger teams don't always help when it comes to gaining UX maturity itself. And you'll notice that organizational maturity is truly bigger. The bigger the design team is not necessarily always going to be the way to grow maturity itself. Because as we talk about, it goes much wider than designers, and it's a whole organization from the top down. So let's look at steps for fostering growth. To foster growth in design, it's important to implement strategic steps to nurture the skills, culture, and impact on design. It's really important to secure leadership support, but will require everyone to consider how design can benefit the process of building a successful product. This is where change can occur within the product teams, and it'll involve change and a deliberate practice. And here's some of the things and activities that can help foster growth in design, and it takes a lot of work. So let's look deeper in the levels and behaviors from the study, and hopefully this might help similar organizations with potential next steps to grow their design ability. Starting with the level 1 producers, design just makes it look good. We talked about it's more of a attractiveness of it makes things look pretty. It's more of an aesthetic approach to design and not much more. And so if you look at the key activities, we are doing some of the more commonly known design activities is around wireframes, design comps, building some interactive prototypes. And so they're focused most on the visual component of design and not much more in the design process, collaboration, or using advanced tools and methods. Companies at this stage can level up by incorporating more user research and collaboration into their design product, move beyond the pixel. Level 2 connectors, the workplace becomes a workshop. More collaborative processes, workshops, rapid sketching, stakeholder input integrated with developer tools. So it's collaboration with the development teams building the products. So they are more collaborative, joint working sessions, and integrated tools with non-designers. More user research, user stories, personas, and usability testing also are present. Companies at this stage can level up when they work to build consistency in the design process. This includes design systems and design operations. Dedicated people to carry out this systematic approach may be needed, an emphasis on design across the business. Level 3, design is a scalable operation. Key activities include things that are also important from the development teams: daily stand-ups, planning and prioritization, creating design briefs, and also building design documentation. At this level, we're more collaborative and design is not in a silo. There's shared ownership and accountability. Companies at this stage can level up by looking forward to creating a strong experimentation practice, build routines around developing hypotheses, running tests, and measuring those results. Creating a culture of curiosity that can be measured is what they should do, or what they could do. At level 4, this is a level of the maturity where data-driven design with practices using analytics, experimentation, user research, and monitoring measure efforts for successful outcomes. Emerging product strategy, market research, and developing vision. With a high maturity comes empowered teams with the backing of executives. Companies at this stage, while performing well and using design effectively, can still level up to the upper echelon of design organizations. And by bringing design thinking into the boardroom, and it'll let design help discover the next opportunity and determine future business outcomes. At the toppest levels, 5% of companies are considered visionaries, and that means design means business. And so doing everything that we've learned about from the level 1 producers all the way up to this, they're doing all of those activities, but they're also finding trend spotting and foresight into what their product can possibly do. They can look at product market fit tests to see if products make sense in different ways and forms, different marketplaces and things like that. They build vision artifacts that look at long-term outcomes, and then cross-platform strategies that look at the whole organizational success on how those products can intertwine with each other. So design is involved in the strategy. It's exploratory user research to assess the market fit for products. companies at this stage need to stay here and pay attention to their industry to understand new challenges coming their way. They can pursue new opportunities and can set them aside from that sets them aside from the competition. Hopefully this has provided some insight into what may be necessary for stronger emphasis on design. The next step would involve developing a specific plan and determining the approach to further enhance these efforts. We will make that talk for the next time when we look at UX teams and methods. So stay tuned. Amika, do we have any questions that I could answer?
I had one. What are some developer tools that designers could provide to unify and help mature UX in an organization?
Great question. So there are all sorts of design tools that we can use today and are better at collaborating than they ever have been before. And so I'm going to use one as an example. We use a tool to build our user experience, basically our UIs, not our UIs. Basically, our mockups are produced in a tool called Figma. Figma does have the ability to collaborate with development, and so we actually can share our mockups and let them see what our solutions look like. And so the fact that there is a collaboration within the design tool and not us just exporting mockups allows us to share so much more than just static mockups. We can build prototypes that allow them to see how the interactions occur. It allows us to we can even offer them the prototype and say, can you take this out and ask users how to test things? But the collaboration tools of sharing things through Figma, it's not just the UIs, the deliverables that they're hoping to see, but there's also tools that are associated to Figma that are also available outside of Figma, but would be the virtual whiteboards. This is where we can do our collaboration when it comes to strategic planning of features. We can start to understand workflows. We can use it more as like a brainstorming tool, but really it's a great collaboration space that becomes more of a living document mostly, is because we can keep adding new ideas, and it's the place to play across the whole team and organization.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions. If the attendees, if anyone has any questions, feel free to post them in the chat. We'll give it maybe one more minute.
Okay.
And thank you, David, for this great talk. I've posted a link to next week's talk, and we do hope to see you there. And next week's talk continues and builds upon David's talk about UX team integration through shared principles. So again, it's part 3 of our 4-part series on UX. Yeah, I don't see any questions, so I think I'm gonna call it there. Thanks everyone for coming, and have a great rest of your day.
Very good. Well, I do appreciate everyone's time, and if there's anyone that has any further questions at some point, I'm available on LinkedIn, and my information is below. Thank you, everyone.